There are very few truly dark places left on Earth. Places untouched by the sun, shielded from the stars, where the only light that has ever existed is the light we bring with us. We call them caves, the last frontiers on our own planet. Welcome to After Dark Horrors. We send probes to the deepest oceans and telescopes to the farthest galaxies. But right beneath our feet lie kingdoms of stone and silence that we have barely begun to understand. People who explore these places, speleologists, cavers, are a special breed. They are scientists and adventurers, mapping the veins of the Earth. Most of the time, what they find is geological wonder. But sometimes, they find something else, something that has been waiting in the absolute dark for millennia. Something that defies science, defies logic, and defies our understanding of life itself. Tonight's account comes from a man we'll call Leo, a geologist and one of the most experienced cave explorers in North America. He sent us his story not for fame or attention, but as a warning. He wants you to know that when you see a cave entrance sealed with concrete, marked with a danger, unstable geology sign, the reason for that seal is often a lie, a necessary lie told to protect us from what's really down there. This is his story, the story of the expedition into System X12, and the reason it is now, and will forever be, permanently sealed. So, turn down your lights, let the world above fade away. Join us as we leave the sun behind and descend into the dark. My name is Leo. For 15 years, my life has been defined by darkness. Not the metaphorical kind, but the real, physical, absolute absence of light you can only find deep inside the earth. I'm a speleologist, a cave scientist. My job is to go where no one has gone before, to map the unknown, and to read the stories written in stone over millions of years. I've rappelled into pits so deep they could swallow skyscrapers. I've squeezed through passages so tight I had to exhale to fit. The rock pressing on my chest, my back, a constant cold reminder of the millions of tons of mountain above me. I've seen crystal formations that glittered like galaxies and underground rivers that flowed with water untouched by man for eons. I thought I'd seen it all. I thought I understood the rules of the world beneath our feet. Then came the expedition to X12. The official designation is Karst System X12, Unexplored. We just called it the Whisperer. It was discovered in a remote part of the Appalachian Mountains by a survey team using ground-penetrating radar. The scans showed something impossible, a massive void, a network of chambers and passages far larger than anything previously found in the region. It was the discovery of a lifetime. There were 4 of us on the initial exploration team. Ben, our leader, a veteran caver who moved through rock with the grace of a mountain goat. Maya, our biologist, hoping to find unique extremophils, creatures that live in total darkness. Sam, our tech and comms guy, responsible for laying down the fiber optic line that would be our only link to the surface. And me, the geologist, there to map the system and understand its formation. The entrance was a narrow fissure at the bottom of a sinkhole, hidden in a dense, old-growth forest. The air flowing out of it was cold and smelled of wet stone and something else, something clean and metallic, like the air after a lightning strike. The first descent was a 300-foot rappel into a chamber we named the vestibule. It was beautiful. The walls were covered in flowstone, formations that looked like frozen waterfalls of calcite. The silence was absolute. In a cave, you learn that silence isn't an absence of sound. It's a presence. It has weight. It presses in on you. The only sounds were our own. The drip of water from our gear, the crunch of our boots, our own breathing. For the first 2 days, everything was normal. We established a base camp in the vestibule, running power and comms from the surface. From there, we began pushing deeper. The system was a labyrinth, a network of passages that twisted and turned, opening into vast chambers and then narrowing into tight squeezes. I was in my element, mapping every foot, taking rock samples, marveling at the sheer, raw beauty of it all. The first anomaly occurred on day 3. We were in a long, straight passage, about a mile in from the entrance. It was perfectly cylindrical, like a subway tunnel bored by a giant machine. The acoustics were strange. Our voices didn't echo normally. Instead of a clear repetition, the echoes came back, distorted. "Testing comms line, check," Sam said into his headset. From down the tunnel, the echo returned. Ch-uck. It was delayed by a few seconds, and the pitch was wrong. Lower. Guttural. "Weird echo," Sam muttered, tapping his headset. "Probably bouncing off some weird formations up ahead." We kept going. I called out to Ben, who was 100 feet ahead of me. "Ben, hold up! I need to take a sample here." The echo came back from the darkness in front of us. "Sample here." But it wasn't my voice. It was a whisper, dry and sibilant, like leaves skittering across pavement. We all stopped. 4 headlamps cut through the darkness, pointing down the tunnel. "Did you guys hear that?" Maya asked, her voice tight. "Auditory pareidolia," I said, trying to sound confident. "It's a known phenomenon in caves. The constant dripping and the strange acoustics can make your brain invent patterns, hear voices in the white noise. The brain's trying to make sense of the echoes. It's nothing, but we were all unnerved. We proceeded more cautiously after that. The whispers continued, always just at the edge of hearing. Echoes of our own words, twisted and reshaped into something else. They seemed to be coming from a large chamber up ahead. We emerged into a cavern so vast our headlamps couldn't find the far walls or the ceiling. It was filled with stalactites and stalagmites, thousands of them, forming a forest of stone. We called it the cathedral. It was breathtaking. We set up our next survey point in the center of the chamber. As Sam was calibrating the laser mapping equipment, he went still. "Guys," he said quietly, "listen." We turned off our headlamps, plunging ourselves into absolute perfect darkness. The silence was back, heavy and profound. But underneath it, there was something else. A low rhythmic sound. Thump, 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 thump. It was a heartbeat. Slow, deep, and powerful. It wasn't a sound we were hearing with our ears. We were feeling it, a vibration coming up through the soles of our boots, through the rock itself. It was as if the entire mountain had a pulse. "Geothermal activity?" Maya suggested, her voice a strained whisper. "Magma chamber far below?" "No," I said. "The geology's all wrong for that. This is limestone. Sedimentary. There's no volcanic activity for 1,000 miles. The thumping continued, steady and eternal. The sound of something massive, ancient and alive, sleeping in the rock beneath us. We turned our lights back on, the sudden brightness jarring. We tried to ignore the heartbeat, to focus on the job, but it was impossible. It was a constant, unnerving presence, the feeling of being inside a living creature. That's when Ben pointed his flashlight at a cluster of stalagmites near the far wall. "What the hell is that?" We walked over. From a distance, they looked like normal formations, but up close, they were anything but. There were 4 of them. Each one was the exact shape and size of a person, not vaguely person-shaped like some cave formations. These were perfect. One was shaped like a man rappelling, another like a woman taking a rock sample. A third was hunched over a piece of equipment. The 4th was standing, pointing, just as Ben had been moments before. They were statues of us, perfect crystalline statues of our team in the exact positions we had been in when we first entered the chamber. We stood there in stunned silence, our headlamp beams tracing the impossible details of the 4 crystalline figures. My scientific mind scrambled for an explanation. It's a mimic deposit, I said, the word sounding hollow even to me. Extremely rare. Water with a unique mineral composition drips in a pattern that, over thousands of years, can coincidentally form familiar shapes. Coincidentally? Maya shot back, her voice sharp with disbelief. Leo, look at it. She pointed her light at the figure that was supposed to be her. The statue was kneeling, holding a small hammer to a rock. It was a perfect replica, down to the specific model of her helmet and the tear in the knee of her coveralls. That's the tear I got in the squeeze on level 1, she whispered. How is that possible? And look at the gear, Sam added, his light tracing the statue of himself. That's my comms unit. The antenna is bent at the exact same angle mine is. I did that this morning when I snagged it on a rock. My rationalizations crumbled into dust. These weren't coincidences formed over millennia. These were snapshots, replicas, created within the last few hours. The water, Maya said, her biologist's brain kicking in. The drip water must be supersaturated with calcite. It's depositing minerals at an impossible rate. Forget science, Leo, Maya snapped. Look around. We are miles underground in a place that is actively creating statues of us. The rules don't apply here. Ben made the call. We're pulling back. We'll document this from base camp and wait for instructions from the surface. Something's not right here. We packed up our gear, a new urgency in our movements. But as we were about to leave the chamber, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The statues were in a line, leading toward a dark, unexplored passage at the far end of the cathedral. And beyond them, deeper in the darkness, was a fifth statue. It was a figure of a person, but it wasn't one of us. It was taller, thinner, and its head was tilted at an unnatural angle. It was standing at the entrance to the dark passage, beckoning. Ben, I said, my voice barely a whisper. There's another one. We all turned our lights on it. The fifth statue was different. It wasn't a perfect crystalline replica. It was rougher, older, and it wasn't a statue of a person in modern caving gear. It was wearing what looked like old-fashioned clothes from the 19th century. A pioneer, maybe, or a prospector, and it was beckoning us forward into the darkness. It's a trap, Maya said. It's trying to lure us deeper. Or it's a warning, Ben countered, warning us not to go that way. The heartbeat from the rock seemed to answer him. Thump, 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 thump. We retreated. We didn't run, but we moved with a speed and purpose we hadn't had before. The journey back to our base camp in the vestibule, which had taken us 6 hours on the way in, took only 3 on the way out. The whole time I felt like we were being watched. The whispers followed us. Echoes of our panicked conversations now twisted into mocking laughter that seemed to come from the rock itself. When we got back to base camp, the first thing we noticed was the silence. The rhythmic heartbeat was gone. Here, closer to the surface, the cave was just a cave again. Silent. Dead. Sam got on the comms to the surface team immediately. He explained what we'd found. The distorted echoes, the impossible statues, the rhythmic thumping. The response from the surface was disbelief, followed by concern. They told us to stay put at base camp, run diagnostics on our equipment, and conduct psychological evaluations on each other. They thought we were hallucinating. Mass psychosis brought on by isolation and sensory deprivation. We spent the next 24 hours at base camp arguing. Maya was convinced the cave was home to a previously unknown biological entity, something that used sound and mineral deposits to lure prey. I was still trying to find a geological explanation, however improbable. Sam thought we'd stumbled into something paranormal. Ben just sat, cleaning his gear, his face a grim mask. It doesn't matter what it is, he said finally. It's a threat. The expedition is over. We pull out at first light, we all agreed. The relief was palpable. That night, we tried to sleep in shifts. I took the first watch. The silence of the vestibule was a comfort after the constant, unnerving heartbeat of the deeper chambers. I sat by the comms unit, listening to the faint hiss of the open channel to the surface. Around 2 a.m., a new sound came over the line. Not from the surface. From deeper in the cave, it was music. A faint, tinny melody. An old folk song I vaguely recognized. It sounded like it was being played on a music box. I checked our gear. No one had brought a music box. The sound had to be coming through the fiber optic line Sam had laid, picked up by the repeater units we'd placed along the way. The music grew louder, clearer. It was coming from the direction of the cathedral. Then a voice came over the comms, a child's voice singing along to the music box. "Oh, where have you been, Billy boy, Billy boy? Oh, where have you been, charming Billy?" It was a little girl. Her voice was clear and sweet, and she was singing from a mile deep inside an unexplored cave system. "Sam!" I hissed, shaking him awake. "Listen." He put on a headset, his eyes widening in disbelief. "That's impossible. The line is directional. It shouldn't be picking up ambient sound from the cave." "It's not ambient sound," I said. "It's on the line, like someone plugged a microphone in down there." The singing stopped. It was replaced by a different sound, scratching. The sound of rock scraping against rock. It was coming from the passage that led deeper into the cave. Then, Ben's voice came over the comms, clear as day. "Leo, Sam, you guys read me?" "Ben, we read you," I said into my headset. "What's going on?" "I'm in the cathedral. You need to see this. The statues, they've moved." I looked over at Ben's sleeping bag. It was empty. Panic flared in my chest, hot and sharp. Ben was gone. He'd left base camp without telling anyone and gone back to the cathedral alone. "Ben, what are you doing?" I yelled into my headset. "You broke protocol. We're supposed to be pulling out." His voice came back over the comms, strangely calm. "I had to see, Leo. I couldn't sleep. The music, it was calling me." "What music?" Maya was awake now, her face pale in the glow of the camp lights. "A music box," Sam answered, his hands flying across his console, trying to pinpoint the signal's origin. "It's coming from a repeater unit near the cathedral, but that's impossible. There's no power source down there except for our line. The statues have moved," Ben repeated. His breathing was heavy, labored. "They're not in a line anymore. They're gathered around the fifth one, the Pioneer." "Ben, get out of there now," I ordered. "That's an order from your second in command." A dry, rasping laugh echoed over the comms. It wasn't Ben's laugh. It was the same sibilant whisper we'd heard in the tunnel. "Second in command, Ben!" I shouted. "Talk to me!" "What's happening?" "It's beautiful." Ben's voice came back, dreamy and distant. "The crystals, they're growing. The Pioneer statue, it's not beckoning anymore. It's holding something." "Holding what?" "A music box. It's made of crystal. It's playing the song." He paused. "And the little girl, she's here. She wants to show me something." "Ben, there is no little girl." Maya screamed into her own headset. "It's a trick. The cave is trying to trick you." "She's not a trick," Ben said, his voice full of wonder. "She's just lost. She's been down here a long time. She says her name is Lily." The scratching sound started again over the comms, louder this time. The rhythmic scrape of stone on stone. "Ben, what is that scratching sound?" I demanded. "It's Lily," he said. "She's writing something. A message for us. The line went dead. Sam, get him back." "I can't," Sam yelled, frantically typing. "The connection is severed. The repeater unit in the cathedral just went offline. It's like the fiber optic cable was just cut. We were blind." Ben was a mile deep in the cave, alone with no communication, and something was down there with him. "We have to go after him," Maya said, already grabbing her gear. "No," I said, my mind racing. "That's what it wants. It lured him down there. It's trying to separate us." We stick together. We follow protocol. Protocol went out the window when the mountain started growing statues of us, she retorted. Ben is our leader. We don't leave him behind. And we don't walk into a trap, I shot back. We're pulling out. Now, we get to the surface and we send a fully equipped rescue team. It was the hardest decision of my life. Every instinct as a caver screamed at me to go after my friend. But my training, my role as the new de facto leader, told me that leading the rest of my team into an unknown, clearly hostile situation was suicide. We packed in silence. The argument settled, but the tension thick enough to choke on. We left most of the base camp equipment, taking only what we needed for the ascent. As we were about to leave the vestibule and begin the climb back to the surface, I noticed something on the wall near the entrance to the passage leading deeper into the cave. Scratched into the rock, fresh and sharp, were words. They hadn't been there an hour ago. Don't leave me. It was Ben's handwriting. Maya saw it and started to cry. Leo, we can't just leave him. That's not Ben, I said, my voice harder than I intended. That's the cave. It's trying to manipulate us. It's echoing his fear. I forced myself to turn away from the message, from the dark passage, and started the climb. The 300-foot rappel into the vestibule was now a 300-foot ascent on ropes, a grueling vertical climb that tested every muscle. Halfway up, my headlamp illuminated something on the rock wall next to me. More scratches. She's not lost, she's hungry. The words were frantic, desperate. Ben's handwriting again. It's just the cave, I muttered to myself, trying to convince myself. Echoes, tricks. We reached the surface just after dawn. The fresh air, the green of the forest, the warmth of the sun. It all felt alien after days in the cold, sterile dark. The surface team was waiting, their faces a mixture of relief and confusion. We told them everything. So less than 12 hours after escaping, I was going back into the Whisperer. The descent felt different this time. The cave was silent. No whispers, no echoes. No heartbeat in the rock. It was just a cave, cold, dark, and empty. The silence was almost more unnerving than the sounds had been. It felt like the silence of a predator waiting patiently. We reached the vestibule. Our base camp was just as we'd left it. The message, "Don't leave me," was still on the wall. The rescue team documented it. Their professional detachment a stark contrast to my own churning gut. We pushed on toward the cathedral. The long cylindrical passage was also silent. We moved quickly, laying down a new comms line as we went. When we reached the entrance to the cathedral, we stopped. The chamber was not as we had left it. The forest of stone was gone. The thousands of stalactites and stalagmites had vanished. The vast chamber was now perfectly smooth, the walls, floor, and ceiling polished to a mirror-like black obsidian. It reflected our headlamp beams into infinity, creating a disorienting, star-filled void. And in the center of the chamber, where our survey equipment had been, stood a single object, a massive crystalline music box. It was easily 10 feet tall, a beautiful, terrible thing of intricate geometric crystal. It was closed, and it was silent. The statues of our team were gone. The pioneer statue was gone, and Ben was nowhere to be seen. "Spread out," the rescue leader commanded. "Search the perimeter. Look for any sign of him." His team moved off, their lights dancing across the black reflective surfaces. I stayed near the music box, drawn to it. The crystal it was made of was the same type as the statues had been. It hummed with a faint internal energy. On the side of the box there were carvings, not the frantic scratches we'd seen before. These were deliberate, ancient, petroglyphs. They depicted figures, people offering gifts to a tall, thin entity with no face. In one carving, the entity was leading the people into a mountain. In another, it was giving them fire, tools, knowledge, and in the final, most disturbing carving, it was eating them. "Find anything, Leo?" The rescue leader's voice crackled in my ear. "Just this box, and some carvings. They tell a story, a pact maybe, an ancient agreement. "We've got something over here," another voice came over the radio. "The passage at the far end. It's been sealed." I walked over to join them. The dark passage where the pioneer statue had been beckoning was gone. In its place was a wall of fresh rock, fused seamlessly with the surrounding obsidian. It was as if the passage had never existed, but on the new wall there was a message, not scratched into the rock this time. It was written in a flowing, elegant script, formed from the crystal of the wall itself. "The debt is paid. The echo is silenced. The door is closed. Thank you for your offering." Below the words was a handprint, a perfect crystalline handprint. It was Ben's. Part 4. The Quarantina Narrator. Leo. We never found Ben, not a trace. No gear, no body, nothing. It was as if he had been absorbed by the rock, his essence converted into that final crystalline message, an offering. The rescue mission was officially called off after 3 days of fruitless searching. The official report listed the cause of death as presumed lost in an unexplored passage. Following a seismic event, the cave system was declared geologically unstable and permanently sealed. That's the public story, the lie we tell to keep people out, to keep them safe. The truth is far more complicated. After we returned to the surface, Maya, Sam, and I were debriefed by people who weren't from the Geological Survey. They were from the government agency Director Harrison had mentioned in that other story you told, the agency that deals with things that aren't supposed to exist. They showed us files, reports from other expeditions into other unusual cave systems around the world. The stories were all eerily similar. Strange acoustics, impossible formations, rhythmic vibrations, and always a lure, something that would draw one member of the team deeper, separating them from the group, an offering to placate whatever lived in the rock. What are they? I asked the lead debriefer, a man with tired eyes who introduced himself only as the curator. "We don't know for sure," he said. "Our best theory is that they are a form of non-biological silicon-based consciousness. Life, but not as we know it. They exist on a geological timescale. To them, a human lifetime is less than a blink of an eye. They don't perceive us as living beings. They perceive us as fleeting energetic events, like lightning flashes. So the whispers, the statues. What was that?" Maya asked. "Echoes," the curator replied. "The crystalline structures in these caves have unique resonant properties. They can record and replicate energy patterns. Sound waves, light waves, even the bioelectric field of a living organism. The entity doesn't create the echoes intentionally. It's a passive process, like a mountain creating a normal echo. But the entity can focus it, shape it. It learns from what it records. It learned our language from our whispers, our forms from our light, our fears from our heartbeats." "And the music box? The little girl?" Sam asked. "That was different," the curator said, his expression grim. "That was an active lure. The entity has been recording echoes for a very, very long time. It has a library of them. It probably recorded a pioneer girl in her music box over a century ago. It used that echo, the most emotionally resonant one it had, to lure Ben in. It learned that the echo of a lost child was a powerful tool to manipulate creatures like us." "So Ben, he was a sacrifice?" My voice was thick with guilt, in a way, but not a malicious one. "Think of it like this. You're walking through your house and a mosquito lands on your arm. You swat it. You don't hate the mosquito. You barely even notice it. It's just a minor annoyance, a brief flicker of energy that you extinguish. To the entity in the cave, Ben was the mosquito. His energy, his presence was an anomaly, an irritation in its silent, eternal existence. It needed to resolve the irritation, absorb the energy, restore the silence." "The message on the wall," I said. "The debt is paid. What debt?" "That's the part we don't understand," the curator admitted. The carvings you found suggest an ancient pact. Perhaps early humans or their predecessors made some kind of deal with these entities, a symbiotic relationship. They would make periodic offerings, sacrifices, and in return the entity would share knowledge or resources or simply leave them alone. The entity wasn't being malicious. It was just collecting on an ancient agreement. Ben was, in its perception, the payment that was due. The cave system X-12 was sealed the following week, not with a gate, but with tons of reinforced concrete poured directly into the entrance fissure, followed by explosives to collapse the surrounding rock, burying the entrance under 100 feet of rubble. It is now, for all intents and purposes, erased from the map, quarantined. Maya, Sam and I were given a choice, the same one you were offered. Alex. Walk away with a generous pension and a non-disclosure agreement that carried the weight of national security. Or join them. Join the curator's agency. Maya and Sam took the money. They couldn't face the darkness again. I see them sometimes. They're living normal lives, working university jobs, trying to forget. But I see the way they look at the ground sometimes, as if they can still feel that slow, rhythmic heartbeat. I took the job. I couldn't walk away. I had to understand. I had to know what else was down there, sleeping beneath our feet. My work now is to identify these unusual cave systems. I analyze seismic data, ground-penetrating radar, historical records. When we find a potential candidate, a cave with strange acoustic properties, unusual mineral deposits, or a history of unexplained disappearances, we send in a probe. Never people. Not anymore. If the probe detects the signs, the resonant crystals, the bioelectric echoes, the rhythmic vibrations, we seal the cave. We don't explore it. We don't study it. We quarantine it. We lie to the world, call it unstable, and bury it under concrete and rock, hoping to postpone the next collection day. There are hundreds of these sealed caves around the world now, under mountains, under deserts, even under our cities, each one holding a silent, sleeping consciousness that perceives our entire civilization as a brief, noisy flash. I often think about Ben. I used to feel overwhelming guilt, thinking I'd abandoned him. But now I understand. He wasn't just a sacrifice. He was a message. A crystalline handprint on a wall of eternal night. A final echo that bought the rest of us time. The official story is that he was a hero who died in a tragic accident, but I know the truth. He was an offering paid to an ancient god of stone and silence. And the most terrifying part? The debt is never truly paid. The silence is only temporary, because there are other caves, other entities, and they are all slowly, patiently waking up. The last thing I found in Ben's personal effects was a small, digital audio recorder he always carried. Most of the files were corrupted, but I managed to recover the last one. It's just 30 seconds long. It's the sound of a crystal music box playing an old folk song. Then, a little girl's voice, clear and sweet, whispering a single sentence. It's your turn to be the echo.